Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the next segment of our State of series. Today, we will be hosting our State of the County series, where we will be hearing from our County Administrator, Janice Gilley, and our Assistant Administrators, Debbie Bauer and Wesley Hall. We hope that you'll enjoy the content and enjoy the program.
Well, thank you for joining us for the State of the County. My name is Ray Walker. I'm the Chair of the Policy Committee and the Vice Chair of the Chamber. I'm here today with our County Administrator for Escambia County, Janice Gilley. Good friend, longtime friend. And Janice, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for the opportunity to sit down with you here in your office to get a little bit of background about what's going on in the county here. Of course, we've had a lot of things change over the last year. You've just been on the job. How long now?
Exactly 1 year.
Okay, 1 year now. So we were talking before we started this, not quite what you expected when you took the job a year ago, I'm sure. But if you don't mind giving us, I know your background, but many in the community and the members of the chamber might not know your background. So you mind giving us a little bit of your background of, how you got to this point and becoming our county administrator?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate, and I'm so glad that you're here to visit with me today. I've been very fortunate to work in public service my entire career. I went and got my master's degree at the University of Florida in public administration, and at the time I thought I was going to become either a State Department worker or a city manager. Little did I know that my path would lead me to the state of Florida and to the county, Escambia County. I have served on the Escambia County School Board. I've also been a county commissioner. Both of those were appointments during times of what I would say a little bit of turmoil and conflict. And so I do have that piece of experience. I've served on the Santa Rosa Island Authority I served there 7 years. I've also had the opportunity to work in executive leadership at the state, in the governor's office, at the university, in the president's office, and then now here at the county. And then I also did serve in leadership in the Florida House of Representatives under 4 different speakers. So I've had a really diverse background in terms of public service, and I think that background has enabled me to be able to manage the county the way that we have the past year. We've had 14 senior leaders that had to be hired either due to retirements or other transitions for individuals, and it's been very challenging to find really good public servants. Previously it was challenging because we were in such a low unemployment state. Very few people were kind of moving around in the market, and then in the past couple of months it's been a little bit more difficult because of COVID and trying to get executive leaders to want to come in and interview and then move their entire families during this particular pandemic. So that's a little bit about my background, but I'm more than happy to share more if you have any questions.
Well, you touched on one thing that I want to jump off on. My first question was, you said you were appointed as a county commissioner, and then now you serve as county administrator. What's the differences between what normally is an elected position as county commissioner and your being hired by the commissioners to be the county administrator?
So first of all, I would say the number of hours. Our commissioners are all very dedicated, and they do currently put in a lot of hours themselves. At the time I was a county commissioner, it was about 28 months I served. I was also an employee at the university, and so we had managed my schedule to where I would spend 1 day a week doing county business, and then I would have 1 evening a week doing county meetings and things like that. And so my calendar was much more easy to manage. As my staff can tell you, we put in around here between 90 and 95 hours a week, which isn't a complaint. It's what it takes to get the job done. But what I would say is that that is a difference. When you are a commissioner, you are able to set the policy, you have to answer the constituents' concerns, and you're able to also live that other life that you may have. Some commissioners, like Commissioner May, I say he has 4 jobs, and so each of them have their own other work that they do. But here, it's full-time, 100% dedicated to county management. And so I would say that's the only difference.
Well, as we talked earlier before we started the interview, this job has obviously changed from when you first took it on. So let's tackle that main question right now, and that is, let's talk a little bit about the county's response to COVID-19 and what have been some of the greatest challenges you've seen as we've faced these last couple months.
Yeah, so obviously none of us were expecting COVID. I think we were all excited about 2020 in terms of, it's a pretty cool, 2020 is a cool decade. And so I thought we all had a lot of optimism about what 2020 was going to be. And so I even made a presentation at the Sanger Theater with the mayor talking about, the future of the city and the county and all these wonderful plans that we both had. And I remember in January when the plague or the pandemic started being discussed about in China, I actually sent an email to our absolutely not even, I don't think, on the job emergency manager, Eric Gilmore, and I said, hey, what's our pandemic plan? And he said, when I get to the office, I'll let you know. And that was in January, before it had really even hit our shores that we were aware of. And he and I started working that next weekend on a pandemic plan that we had to pull together because the one that we had really wasn't sufficient for our community. And I would say since then, our work has predominantly been doing our best to try and provide the services that we provide to 300,000 residents and over 2 million visitors a year, and trying to do that in such a way that we maintain a certain level of service that provides what I think is a normalcy for our residents. So many things are abnormal right now. I think knowing that the animals in the animal shelter are being taken care of, that when you call EMS or fire, someone's going to respond. Unfortunately, if you have a situation where someone has to be an inmate in the jail, that we do have folks that can also take care of their custody. We also have situations with building inspections, development services. I mean, there are so many things, so many services that we provide that we are still able to provide the community, albeit a little differently than we have before, whether it be appointments at the animal shelter or on virtual with building inspections. We are still doing our best to try and provide those services. I mean, the taxpayers pay us to do that service, and that's our responsibility. In the meanwhile, I do try and communicate at least every couple of weeks with our employees and make sure that they know we want you to stay calm, stay clean, and stay healthy. And that includes mental health. It includes social distancing. It includes, us trying to provide you with PPE and other items to make sure that you are protected. We've also put barriers up in a lot of our offices when there can't be social distancing from, the citizenry, and, just different things like that. Managing that during a pandemic and also at a time when we are seeing reducing revenues has been very challenging. One of the good news, I would say at this point, is we are still maintaining those levels of service. We have not had to furlough or lay anyone off, and we are trying very hard to manage our budget in such a way that we are not adding any stress or burden to the taxpayers while providing those services during declining revenue times.
Yeah, so everything kind of changed a couple months ago. Nothing, when we had the State of the City meeting last fall, we had the mayor come into a luncheon down at the yacht club, and that was kind of the plan for this meeting. And then obviously everything changed and we weren't able to do it. And COVID has changed all that, and getting a little bit of our response from you, we appreciate that. But let's look at, when you came on the job, you obviously gave a presentation, and I remember watching in the county commission meeting remotely, seeing the presentation you gave when you were applying for it. You had an idea and a vision for Escambia County. You're a longtime Escambia County resident. I mean, you've been here as long as I can remember, pretty much your whole life, it seems. So kind of give us a little bit of what your thoughts are, because hopefully at some point we'll get back to normal.
Yes.
And then we've got to move forward.
Yes.
What's kind of your vision for that?
So one of the things that I would love for us to do is to make sure that we are getting the best value out of everything that we do in our community. And I mean, we need to be proud of our community. There are things in which, that we can always improve on, whether it be the health care or the education or, just the socioeconomic status of a lot of our individuals. But I think for us to have a pride in our community and to have a pride in our county is what will help us move those things forward. We continue to make the list of like 50 best places to retire, the best beaches in the world and things like that. Well, I'd also like us to be the best county to live in. And that would include making sure that we're healthier and that, our education and our the services that we provide are of a world-class standard. And that's kind of where I was looking to go. So I haven't lost that vision. I'm looking forward to continuing to implement that vision. And, I would not say we've had a setback. What I would say is we've had a detour around some of those. But we are still moving ahead. We are trying to make efficiencies and improvements in the way that we respond to our citizens from technological standpoint and the way that we provide some of our services. So, and you know, that environment that we create is what creates an environment in which our companies currently that we have here can grow, and then for companies that may want to relocate, or actually companies that may just want to just do a better job in the community and provide the services that they provide in just a better environment.
Well, that kind of hits on my next point is obviously the chamber, we're out representing our businesses. Mm-hmm. We're the key advocate in the community, whether for local and state government. We want to be that advocate for our businesses. So the question I have is, what are some of the ways the county is working to help local business environment, to make it a place where people want to come and do business? They want to start their business. They want to build their business. They want to stay here. Mm-hmm. My opinion, I live in the best place in the country, mm-hmm. and that's how I believe that. Yep. But how do we make it so other people believe it and want to come here?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really important is that place matters, and defining your place and knowing your place is really, really important. And so making sure that we are creating a place where people want to live, work, and play is the key. I know that Visit Pensacola and other groups have also taken on this mantra. And if you want to live and play here, you'll also want to work here. And so that's what we have to do. We have to provide really good park amenities. We have to make sure that we maintain our water quality, our other environmental issues, our walking trails, our beaches, you know, our parks. I think I've already mentioned that, but, you know, equestrian centers. I mean, all the things that the county provides, those extra amenities that we provide are things that help foster that and encourage that environment of wanting to live, work, and play here. And so those are things that are maybe a little bit less specific to business and economic development, but I'm quite sure that from a tangible standpoint, those are factors that businesses and people take into consideration when they look for a place to live or to grow their company.
I know with whether it's Florida West or other groups, when the economic development, when they're recruiting businesses, they're not just looking at finding a location to build their structure. Mm-hmm. They're looking at, okay, my employees are coming, what do they have? And that kind of goes along with that idea of the quality of place, the quality of where we actually live. So those are the questions. That kind of gives us a little bit of background and so on. I want to open it up for you, just as we finish up here, is there something that maybe you wanted to share with us that maybe that you've been working on that just kind of really would be something that our members would really find beneficial as part of Escambia County?
Yeah, I think one of the things that it is related to COVID. One of the things that we want to make sure that we do as we continue to try and find a way to expend the dollars that the federal and the state government have provided us is ensure that we are getting those dollars to the businesses that have been impacted but have not been able to receive funds and things like that. So that's going to be really key for the commission and our staff to try and make sure that we help those individual businesses. And then also from an economic development standpoint, you know, I think it's really important that that we do continue to increase and make these amenities so much better for everybody, because you know, hopefully people have more time than I have to spend enjoying themselves and their family and their friends. And so I hope that the amenities that we provide are something that will help foster that economic development and growth.
Well, I appreciate it. Janice, thank you so much for sitting down with me in the chamber today. We look forward to hopefully having a future State of the County in which we can all have a luncheon and enjoy a meal and sit there and look over the beautiful Pensacola Bay and sit at the yacht club and enjoy our time together. But we thank you so much for your time and for all that you do for Escambia County.
Thank you, Ray. You're so kind.
Hi, I'm Todd Thompson, President and CEO of the Greater Pensacola Chamber of Commerce. And as we go on with today's State of the County, I'm privileged to introduce Wesley Hall. He's one of the new Assistant County Administrators here in Escambia County. And we want to take today this opportunity to introduce him and have him talk a bit about himself and his job here at the county. Wesley, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate it.
So please tell us a little bit about your background and what you've done professionally leading up to your time here.
My background is somewhat diverse. I had the pleasure of spending half my career in the governmental sector and half of my career in the private sector. Primarily, I was a commercial real estate broker, commercial banker, and moved from there up to Tallahassee, where I started in governmental work, and I've been the director of sales for the Florida Lottery. I was the deputy director of the Office of Supply Diversity. So I've had somewhat of a diverse career in addition to being an entrepreneur and owner of a franchise.
So talk a little bit about your responsibilities here with the county in your new role.
My responsibilities here is really management, and I'm managing about 9 divisions. Those divisions include animal services, library services, management and budget, mass transit, neighborhood and human services, natural resources, parks and rec, the Base Center, and purchasing, all are under my purview here in my current capacity as Assistant County Administrator.
So with all of that you're working with, how has it been dealing with COVID-19? You started right around the time things got pretty crazy. How has that impacted your work?
Primarily, one of the things I'm very much high on is customer service. And it's been somewhat of a challenge to provide excellent customer service when you have a number of individuals out on a given day. That's been a bigger challenge. And if you take animal services, we're probably down 7 or 8, almost 10 people. Half of that is COVID, the other half is positions that we're trying to fill. So when you take that many people out of any organization, it makes it difficult to offer customer service. And when you have animals such as kittens and puppies, they're coming in every day. It doesn't stop. So our challenge is, how do we give them great customer service, meet the needs of our citizens, as well as meeting the needs of the animals that we service. You know, the pens still have to be cleaned out twice a day. The animals still have to be fed. So the challenge has been providing that customer service, excellent experience for each customer when we're somewhat shorthanded on a daily basis. And it really has become somewhat of a challenge because we don't know, and nobody knows where the end of this is.
Right. And you're having to do that with the safety precautions and making sure that you're following those guidelines.
Right, washing your hands, mask on, social distancing. We're trying to do everything right, and even with that, we still have had a couple of cases out there, and we're just trying to work through it, and again, with an emphasis on providing the best possible experience for every customer and every animal that comes through that door.
Right. So you mentioned you've worked on state and local government level, but you've also worked in the private sector as an entrepreneur and owning your own business. Talk about those two worlds and how they have kind of shaped how you approach your job here with the county.
They're different but alike. And when I say that, at the end of the day, we all have budgetary constraints that we have to limit ourselves to. The thing about a private sector job is when you make a mistake, you feel it immediately. There's nobody to absorb it for you. And if you keep making that same mistake, say for 6 months to a year, you probably won't be in business. But the biggest thing for me is what the private sector has helped me done is the management of resources, to get every dime, every penny out of every dollar that we collect. This is not, what we're playing with is not monopoly money. It's the taxpayers' money. And that's the thing that I stress throughout all of my division. We want to maximize every penny that comes through that door from tax revenue. And I think when you've had a chance to own your own business, it really puts you in a light that you look at things quite differently. I mean, to the point that I was the type of person that, I knew how many French fries packs were in a box, but I actually opened up the bag of French fries, laid it out on the counter and counted the number of French fries. And the difference in 3 bags was 4 French fries.
Wow.
So I'm somewhat, I don't want to say penny pincher, but I'm very, very prudent, and I'm a total believer in managing your resources in good times, and then in lean times like we're in now, you'll be able to make it through without losing any of your services or losing any of your people.
So I'm sure the taxpayers in our county will be glad to hear that. That's a great perspective. So you worked on the state level and the local level. What are some of the differences that you see from those two different types of government working in both?
Probably the biggest thing on the state level, it was the old saying, I was a little fish in a big pond, whereas now I'm somewhat of a big fish in a smaller pond. But really the differences are not that great. The differences are it's governmental efficiency, governmental productivity, and getting the maximum out of every dollar that comes through the door. So the challenges are really the same. It's just the scales are bigger, and that's really the biggest difference that I've found in the two operations. And because I worked for the state a number of years, the transition into county government was not that difficult. You still have similar rules, similar regulations, and you just have to do the best you possibly can every day and just highlight performance and productivity.
And from a business perspective, what are some of the things that you look at that can be done to help the business environment here in Escambia County?
I guess the first thing for me is customer service. I want that experience to be an excellent experience for each and every customer that comes through the door. Again, fiscal responsibility. I want every dime spent and every dime accounted for. And I think if you can do those two things, you can start to move the needle. The other thing is continuous improvement. Never sit on your laurels. I look at, and this will tell my age a little bit, but as a boy, I can remember going with my mother and father to Sears to buy school clothes. Sears did not continue to improve. And now I was in Tallahassee 2 weeks ago, and I rode by the Governor Square Mall, and there sits Sears, but nobody's in Sears. Sears is gone. So continuous improvement, getting better at what we do each and every day. I look back, I was watching a news report, this has been several years ago when Tiger was in his prime, and he came home, and I may have the wrong tournament, but the principle is still the same. I want to say the US Open, and he had won, and he got home at 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was watching his performance, and he saw a glitch in his swing. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, after winning a major tournament, he called his swing coach and had him come over there at 3 o'clock in the morning to fix this glitch. And he did that even after victory. Continuous improvement. Michael Jordan used to shoot after a game 1,000 jump shots. Continuous improvement. There's no point where you may be on top of the mountain, but if you don't continue to try to get better, somebody else is always coming after you and wanting you to push you off that mountain.
No, that's a great message, and I think an important one for the community, business community at large. That's great stuff. So any closing message you have for the community, anything you want to say as you sort of start on this new adventure here in Escambia County?
I'm extremely excited about this opportunity. I'm pleased to be here. I lived in Escambia County before back in 2005 to 2010. So I'm very, very familiar with the community. We have a number of needs, but I think we will put together a team. Ms. Gilley will put together a team that we can actually be successful. And we'd like to eventually be an award-winning county, and with productivity, leadership, and fiscal responsibilities and continuous improvement being our mantra. And that's how we plan on moving this situation forward. And again, I'm excited to be here, thankful to be here, and I look forward to meeting the business community as well as the citizens of this great community.
We are fortunate to have as our guest now the other new Assistant County Administrator, Debbie Bowers. Debbie is new to the county, but she has an extensive background. Debbie, tell us about your background and what you've done leading up to this position.
Well, first of all, I am a native from the Pensacola area. I grew up here and graduated from Tate High School. After that, I worked in a laboratory. I graduated with a chemistry degree, and I worked in a local laboratory, which my mother owned, Pioneer Laboratory, which no longer exists. Then I ventured out. I went to Palm Beach, where I worked for a pension fund real estate advisor, managing about $500 million worth of assets. I then went to law school in Chicago, and there after law school, I worked on the Exxon Valdez case with a real estate firm, explaining the effect of the spill on the real estate valuation. I then worked as the Vice President of Corporate Real Estate for a large insurance company. I left there, moved back to South Florida to Fort Lauderdale, to Broward County, where I worked for the county as a director of real estate, then as the deputy port director. Then with the county administration, I was in charge of the convention center, the port, the airport, and basically anything that was economic development in the area, along with our economic development department. And then I had to go over to the airport to work on some issues there. Then I was recruited to go work at the Los Angeles World Airports in LA, where I was the Deputy Executive Director for Commercial Development, which means I was in charge of the airline deals, concessions, rental cars, buses, parking, taxis, anything that brought in income to the airport.
So quite an impressive resume. And so talk about your position here now with the county. What's your role? What departments are you in charge of?
So I am the Assistant County Administrator for Infrastructure and Public Safety. And so first of all, I am in charge of public safety, which includes emergency management and the fires and the paramedics. I'm also, that kind of segues into corrections, which includes the jail, obviously. I also have waste services, facilities management, and public works. And then with the development community, I have building inspections or building services, development services, and engineering. And so I think that was all 8 of them, and economic development falls under me.
So a lot of what you're responsible for has been impacted by COVID-19. Talk about that a little bit. What have you had to do differently, and how does that impact your day-to-day work?
Well, I spend a lot of time in public safety, learning a lot, and excuse me, working with Eric Gilmore, who's our Director of Emergency Management, looking at protocols and helping HR Director with setting those up for the county employees. Also, just working with Eric on logistics and stuff that he does for distributing PPE in the community, and especially to our employees. Making sure our facilities department is doing as much as possible to keep all of our employees protected, and the public protected from our employees, just in case, which includes installing plexiglass all over the county where our employees interact with the public, and doing a lot of desanitizing when necessary. We do a lot of extra cleaning, especially in the buildings where the public visit, and our facilities department is responsible for all of that.
So you have experience, you talked about working in Broward County, in Los Angeles, so you have experience in large communities. What are some of the things that you've learned there that you might bring back to county government here in Escambia County?
Well, one thing with Broward County is there were 32 cities. So we definitely I learned how to interact with other government agencies. In LA, the same thing. The airport was an enterprise fund, but we were dependent upon government agencies downtown in LA. So because of what I did, I worked a lot downtown because of the agreements and the economic development that the airport brought to the community. So I think that the other things is that enterprise funds are the way that the government affects people who are trying to make money. And a lot of that is, especially with the building services and the development services, I do know that government can sometimes be an impediment to business trying to develop. And so I have learned both from being a recipient of some of those impediments and also as being on the side of having to make sure that our processes are not impediments, but that they do follow all the protocols that we have set up and the policies and procedures set up by the local governments. So I think that's the biggest thing. I also learned, surprisingly, especially in not surprisingly that we had a big homeless population in LA, but the fact that the enterprise fund, the airport, could do so much to help, which we did because of some real estate we had. And so I learned a lot about how we could be of service to the community, even though we were an enterprise fund that was supposed to be making money.
So you came in as things with COVID were ramping up, but I know you have some ideas and some thoughts on what you'd like to do with economic development and for the business community here in Escambia County. Tell us about your vision and some of the ideas you'd like to implement in the coming years.
Well, so unfortunately, I haven't really had the time to work with you, Todd, or Scott Luth at Florida West Environmental, not environmental, sorry, Economic Development. So some of the ideas I have may be duplicative of what exists already. So like incubator setups for small businesses, especially women-owned and minority businesses. That is something I'm very interested in. But during this time period, besides having to learn my departments and the people in them and what they do, I'm also working very closely, especially with development services and building services, to make sure we're not an impediment to things that the community needs to do to make sure that they are still viable in this economy. So I think I look forward to the future when I can get out in the community more and see how the county can help economic development in this area, in Escambia County.
So you grew up here, you have the experience of being here and now coming back. Talk about what you've seen in terms of now coming back into the community, what's different, and just how things have changed since growing up here.
And so I left here in the early 80s. Now I did come back every year for Christmas especially, and sometimes in the summer to visit my family. But I am amazed and very happy about the way downtown has changed. I love the restaurants. I love the retail shops here. I love that we have a baseball team now. Unfortunately, we're not going to see them this year, but I do like that. It's just amazing what this community has done in the growth and providing more sophistication for younger people that are moving here and want to make a go of it. Some of the institutions that have come here, I'm just amazed about how much the county has grown, which means that we have gotten more traffic, which is something we're working on in engineering. But that mainly just the way that it has grown, and I think gotten more sophisticated and bringing in new and more diverse type of businesses.
So any closing message for the business community as we wrap up here?
I guess the biggest thing is hang in there, and I have a lot of empathy for our business community and especially our workers who have lost jobs or been furloughed. I think we'll make it through this, and I'm really concerned. Certainly you can contact me if you have any ideas, but we don't want to lose small businesses through this. And I know that that is a possibility, and so anything that we can do to help, I'm here, and I'd like to hear your ideas.
Well, Debbie Bowers, new Assistant County Administrator, thank you for being with us today for our inaugural State of the County.
Thank you.